traction that MPC gets around the world. It's really warming our hearts. So my name is Abi Rose. I'm the PhD in Business Development for Europe in Unbound. Unbound is an Israeli company. I will tell you about the company in a minute. I just want to provide the concept that we're trying to achieve. I choose one of the use cases. I believe the key for everything, but also for MPC, is to sit on the right use case. And the right use case is combined from several things. One of them is that it should be practical, usable, and I believe that simplicity is the key to security and to many other things. And those should be in a use case that can go in a high magnitude. So a little bit about the problem that we are dealing with. The use case that I choose to stick with is regarding the public cloud usability. Public cloud is being out there for a while. Yet, if you go to the list of your favorite bank, if it's within Europe, they probably will not use the public cloud. Why? Why are they not using the public cloud? Some of them are actually on the list of the main public cloud customer list. But what they are doing with the cloud is really very minor, and there is a reason for that. And one of those reasons is the security reason, and I will try to cover that aspect. So the perimeter of companies is dead. Things are going all over the place. Do it from here. Companies are cannot stay within their borders anymore, and information is going everywhere. We figure out that the foundation of all the security within the company, or most of the security within the companies, lies on the crypto layer, and below the crypto layer are the cryptographic keys. So if the cryptographic keys are compromised, then the entire pyramid goes away. And that pyramid is the basic foundation of almost every organization. That's why they are using HSMs, which Nigel nicely described them. They prefer to use them because the alternatives are for them less secure, and some of them are required by regulation as well. Everyone that I met so far everywhere, even the people that are implementing hundreds of HSMs farms, they all hate it, and they all want to get rid of that. But that's in terms of security, or in terms of mentality, they cannot. So based on the cryptographic breakthrough that was strengths from the mathematics, the MPC, Unbound eliminates the single point of compromise for secure path for digital innovation, digital transformation, and that's something that we believe, and that we see also the traction within companies is a key solution for any company that wants to go to the public cloud. The way we do it, when I say we, it's you'll see in a minute who's doing that. So the use case that is used within most of our products is we took the MPC and narrowed it to the cryptographic key, and we done that for two main reasons. One reason is that because it's the foundation of every company's security or enterprise security. This means that someone will invest money in getting that secure. Getting security in the right place where it should be, and the other use case is because of the performance that we get within the platform. So what we are doing, each of the private key is separated. We are only using two in our basic platform. It's complex enough, it's almost unbreakable. To two separate random shares, which are stored in separate locations. Okay. and are refreshed constantly. And the refresh constantly is, of course, our not part of the basic MPC, if I remember correctly, but that's something that we add on top of the MPC in order to enhance the security. This means that from the minute of creation and for the entire life cycle of the cryptographic key, it will never ever be put together again. So that cryptographic key is used for starting from signing over SSLs and also being used in banking applications and being used, of course, to go to blockchain and cryptocurrency in the wallets and exchanges and everywhere. That cryptographic key can be stuck if someone is not using an Unbound solution, then you can either put it on HSM, yes?
Could you please define refreshed constantly?
Yeah,
sure.
I'm getting there. And he's not using an Unbound solution, so he either should put it on a hardware secure mode or on an HSM, which again is not feasible to give HSM for every customer which is using banking application, or a smart card, because if it's on the mobile itself, then you're dependent, your security is actually dependent on your mobile provider, whether it's iOS or Android. The refreshed is on top of that, so we don't just have two static parts. Okay, so we take a key, let's say it's 1000, we split it into 600 and 400. Okay, the 600 you put on the public cloud safely because that information is, even if someone compromises it, is unusable. The other part you put on another cloud that you trust or on-prem, doesn't matter. We support every platform, we are totally agnostic to that. So after a few minutes, depends how paranoid the security officer is, after a few minutes, the parts will refresh. So the 600 become 300, the 400 becomes 700. So even if someone compromises the 600, it's useless. So in order to compromise the keys here, someone needs to compromise both locations, combine the key together, which we're not making it easy to do. According to our engineers, it's impossible if you follow the simple best practice. I think the multi-party compilation was already discussed. It's important to mention we are a pure software solution. We have no compromise of security and no compromise over performance, meaning that that the key is never revealed within any part of the process, and that was checked, of course, by external labs. Most of our customers, you will see the list in a minute, will not go for such a product without such a test. The random shells can be deployed in different places. We're talking here about cloud today, but it can also be put, as I mentioned, on a mobile device and then enable something which is bring your own for BYOD. And they are refreshed. So we're using the MPC cryptography protocol, and we're also doing project in zero knowledge proof, real zero knowledge proof, any security guarantee, and mathematically proven. A little bit about the company before I go to what we are actually providing for the cloud. So Professor Smart and Professor Lindell are our chief scientists, and together with a very impressive engineering power that we have within the company, we built a platform that it serves in the Fortune 500. So our biggest customers are Citibank and Goldman Sachs. They are also part of our main two investors, and they did that step because they believe in the technology even before the Gartner drew their hype. And we are selling only to the Fortune 500 because, again, below that, companies are less concerned because I believe, by the way, that security is all about risk management. And we'll discuss that later on when we talk about the public cloud. So for some companies, using what the public cloud provider is enough. For others, it's certainly not. That part of the certification is actually taking the MPC to the next level. So we are 3 weeks away from full FIPS certification. That will be the first time that a software company got a FIPS certification at that level. And the first time, of course, that the NIST is certifying MPC. So NIST will actually, was forced to announce that MPC is now certified. So it's not just, coming from the academic. Also NIST, we put that once the solution will be certified, we are at the last stage. I can send you the link. NIST is showing each company, each product, where it's the stage that it is to certification. And we also in a process for common criteria. That's also very special because we will be one of the only solutions, also within the HSM world, that will have a common criteria secure profile. That will happen sometime in the middle of next year. So we provide hardware-level security. Our engineers actually said it's better than hardware security, but we don't have enough time to get into that philosophical discussion. But it's hardware-level security in a pure software solution. I think Nigel mentioned earlier the challenges that HSMs are facing. I mentioned that some of that as well when I go to the public cloud. We support all industry standard cryptography, so we didn't invent yet a new cryptography algorithm, as any Israeli company should do in some point of the history. But we support all the standard algorithms, so it's not that we are changing something within the organization. So when we're implementing something within our solution within a typical organization, they don't need to change anything within their PKI. Okay? They just replace our solution with an HSM. Okay? In public cloud, they don't have a solution. But in cases that another solution exists, same algorithm can be used and same APIs. So we support PKCS11, we support KMIP, we support REST API out of the box. It's available anywhere, on-prem, on cloud, UID, etc. And it's future ready because the joke that Nigel made about how HSMs look. HSM, the major problem of HSM is that the certification process takes 2 years. Okay? And you need to prepare for that for another year. So everything that they need to certify, they need to do 3 years in advance. And then it's frozen. Every component which is being changed, you need to recertify. So any new encryption algorithm they're going to support, they need to predict what will happen 3 years from now. And in the world of in our world, the blockchain world and the cryptocurrency world, that's not feasible. So we are protecting and managing any secrets, okay? Even while in use. Okay, we have other secrets that we are protecting for customers. So we proved that in production also for other things beyond the cryptography keys, and also more than 2 parts. Okay, so the MPC actually works as it's supposed to. You can share and collaborate, and you trust you have trust computing in the cloud, and that's something that is very new. So why actually I mentioned earlier that if a company going to the public cloud, it increases security risk. So the problem is that once a company goes to the public cloud, and they want, of course, to move from their data center to the public cloud, otherwise they need to maintain both. And then, of course, the entire initiative to go to the public cloud is to close the data centers or to reduce them dramatically, take all the equipment out, and store it on the cloud that it's always updated, patched, etc., etc. But some of those applications that are going to the cloud were managed earlier on the 4 walls of the data centers, and now they're going to the cloud. Meaning that the one that will manage them is someone from Amazon, someone from Microsoft, someone from Google, and that's a security risk. Because the key material, okay, so one thing is, okay, you encrypted your database, okay, but where do you store the encryption key of that? And same thing for everything that you encrypt, okay? So if you save that, you move to the cloud, where do you save the encryption key? So if you trust the cloud providers, you have the key material not within your control. That's a major security risk, okay? Because according to, I'm not talking about the regulation, just putting on a question mark. Let's leave them aside, because the cloud providers claim that they are GDPR compatible, of course. But I mean, in the spirit of GDPR, if you provide the key to the keys to your encryption keys to an Amazon employee, you don't even know who's adminning your keys. That's a total loss of your control. The cloud provider system administrator get access to your key material, okay? And it's true that I mean, the cloud providers are not telling this story, the story I'm telling here, of course. They are telling the story that it's totally secure, etc., etc. But you know, when it's going to the company's CISO, and they need to decide what they are doing, they are not going to move their key management to the cloud. Because one of the reasons is that pending a US subpoena, the data will be provided to whoever it is in the US without acknowledging the customer. That's part of the Patriot law, etc. Because most of them are US based, they are all obliged to obey to that, and it was taken to court already, and they provided the data. Okay, so it doesn't matter that they open data centers everywhere, in Germany, in Netherlands, it doesn't matter, because they are obliged to provide the data because they are an American company. Okay? So public cloud, under those two major risks, okay, provides a security risk, which is something that, and I'm talking reality. There is no, even a single bank in Europe, within the traditional banks, that went to the public cloud full-blown. None, not even one. We didn't find any. And for those risks, most enterprises in Europe decline using the cloud provider's key management system. Also in the US, there isn't a big attraction to the cloud, but you can see some attraction there. But in Europe, it's simply not catchy. Controlling the keys in the cloud is a best practice. It's becoming a best practice, both by SC and Gartner, which are talking about controlling the keys. And when you provide your keys to the cloud provider, you are not controlling your keys, but you're giving the control literally to someone else. So what are we providing here? So our solution allows any customer to keep full control over the cryptographic keys while using the public cloud, because public cloud is a good technology for some companies. It's something that should progress the customer to another level of transmission services, etc. Otherwise, there should be another reason going there. And so if we are meeting customers which are saying we are not going there because of security reasons, then that should be solved. There is an issue here. So with our solution, customers can maintain full control over their keys in the cloud, also in multi-cloud, also in hybrid environment, which I will speak about in a minute. Real-time tamper-proof audit log. That's very important. Those of you who knows HSMs, it's a nightmare to take an audit log from an HSM, especially if you have hundreds of them. They are not very friendly in terms of communicating the information out. You need to log, usually you need to log each one of them separately and take the information and then aggregate it yourself to a log. It's a nightmare, especially under the regulations like GDPR. We provide instant key revocation. Okay, so key revocation is a major issue. What are you doing if your key is lost? Okay, smart card. That's except from the plastic industry, doesn't provide the benefit to anyone. The smart cards and the help desk, of course, of support of companies. But it's a huge overhead of them. They are enforced to do so because they didn't find another solution. But why would you go there if you don't have to? So let's see two examples. I think I jumped one. So let's look at the hybrid key management. So there are two scenarios possible here. One is that you put everything on the cloud. Okay, that's part of the policy of several organizations that I met. They're not in the banking sector, but retail. I met two retailers which their policy put everything on the cloud. Now the security people need to know to figure it out how they do it. That's one level of security. And of course, the one that are more security oriented want to have the other part on-prem. Okay, and they have the full control over it. Okay, even if they put everything on the cloud, if you separate the clusters, then it's still almost impossible to put it together because you put two separate administrators, two different passwords, and still someone needs to know where is the other share, and it's not mandatory that you reveal that information. Okay, so there is still a very high level of security, even for companies that want to put everything on the cloud. For the other hand, companies that put things on-prem still get the performance of the cloud, and that's kind of magic, right? Because what's the difference then if you put an HSM, okay, or you put Unbound on-prem? There is a big difference, okay? because the Unbound parts are communicating with each other in a much less computing power than computing needed than the full key going to the HSM back and forth. Okay? It's a fraction of that time. Okay? So in tests that we done in terms of latency, because what the companies are always complaining here is about the latency. Okay? The latency of the so they adopted the public cloud, but they get unrealistic latency within the processes. So what's the point of using a public cloud if you had such a low performance? So within our solution, we provide through a single pane of glass, so a single solution, they can support all of their environments. So whatever the policy is, because some companies are going to multi-cloud, some company has multi-cloud because they are so big that several units are doing whatever they want, and they adopted, some went to AWS, some went to Azure, some decided they want to have a local cloud, whatever. Within our solution, and Microsoft don't like us for that, we are partners but not that good friends, we are agnostic to the cloud provider, and we run on all of them. We are not connected to the key management of the cloud provider, for two reasons. One, if we do that, then the cloud provider will probably want to know the full key. And the second one, they are blocking it, because the two major cloud providers believe that they are the secure environment, and everything else should not be connected, so they select and filter according to whatever reason which solutions will be able to connect to their key management. And they not allow us today to do that, but we are doing it in another way. But we can do the key management ourselves. So far, it's just regarding the public cloud. I won't go into all the use cases, but it's important to mention that we do support a lot of use cases. Okay? The last thing we want to be is to end up like IDAS, or like the digital cards in Belgium, for example, that exist, I think, for 20-something years and still looking for the first use case, except from reporting to the government. That's not good for a business like ours. So we are focusing on use cases where we can make a difference. We are not getting into, so you won't find in here IDAS, for example, for two reasons. Why IDAS? One of the reasons is that IDAS, because of the influence of the HSM vendors, requires, from a qualified signature, a hardware, that is the certificate will be on a hardware device. Plastic industry and HSMs were influencing the requirement. So we are not there, because it's not, and again, just selling a signature service, signing service, is not good enough. You need to put a real use case over it. What are you signing? What is the use case? Just digital signature is nice, but it exists for PKI exists for I think also for 15 or 20 years. It needs to be taken into a practical level. The one use case that I want two use cases more that I want to mention here. One is the secure identities, hidden credential on IoT devices. So we can run on any device. We can run from IoT device to the servers, depending on the version of the solution. And that's a very interesting use case, because that can provide a solution for BYOD. And the other use case is code signing. Well, you see it right there on the top there. Code signing. A very big American company, 3 letters in blue. They're using our solution for code signing in a very major use case. They were using HSMs in the past. They stopped using HSMs because what happens is if you have 100 development teams, and each one of them needs to use HSM, and you need to have as many HSMs as your number of your development team need to have access to. And when the developer doesn't have access to the HSMs, then he do a workaround. And the developers did some workarounds. They need to be creative. I'm saying it as a good thing. But once you cannot enforce something between something that works for all of your developers, then they will find a workaround. So code signing for almost every enterprise. Which has some kind of a development in-house, is a major use case. because there are no solutions today for an enterprise level for code signing. There is a solution for semantic, which is good for startups and one or two development teams, but not for a bank, not for a manufacturer. And that's something that we see a lot of traction to that, because the alternative is to use HSMs, and it's not required by regulation. It's a total overkill to what's needed. And again, if you have, for example, if you have a development in China, HSMs are not allowed in China. Okay, and you need to ship them all over the world and deal with them. It's a nightmare. You need to support all the developers, compilers. It really is a complex kind of thing, and doing it with an HSM is really not the right solution. So that's it for today. I'll be happy to get any questions regarding the solutions or company. Yeah.
Develop your own MPC protocol for distributing these shares of the keys. And,
for each protocol.
Sorry?
They are providing. The professors are putting the right MPC for each encryption protocol, for example, RSA, triple data, yes, etc., or for another data that you want to encrypt, and then the engineering is putting it into operation. But we do standard protocols, so once we support something, supported for everyone. Okay, so.
And in terms of like what would I buy from you?
So we have
software, and how is that deployed?
Okay, good question. So it's important to mention we are a vendor. We are not a service provider of any kind. So we never hold the data, even if it's shipped, we never hold the data for any customer. So we are providing a platform which is 2 instances. The minimum that we provide is two pairs. Of course, there is a built-in failover within the solution. And you can scale it up, scale it down. That's part of the advantage of the solution, according to the performance you want to achieve, okay? And according to the use case. But it's all there, okay? So you get from us a solution that is installed within a few hours. That's our installation time. It's really out-of-the-box solution. And it gets all the APIs inside, okay? So it depends on the use case. How do you, because again, it doesn't make sense to buy it as a standard, just to have it a cool technology in-house. Okay, you need to have an application talking with that, with your key management. Okay, so even if let's say you have a database that you want to do database encryption, so it communicates to take the keys from our solution. So you need to integrate to it your applications. That can be done via our interface or via REST API or command line.
Let's assume that I'm an avid AWS user. My company, and I'm using the KMS infrastructure that they provide. How would I migrate to your solution?
So the migration, again, unfortunately, because we are not communicating with the KMS, the migration will be, it doesn't make sense with another limitation of the KMS, you cannot take out the certificate. So it's only for AWS. Okay, so you buy a solution only for AWS, you cannot use that outside. So you need to have, you can install our solution on AWS. Actually, our demo is working on AWS as well. And then once you install it, you take it out of the KMS. So meaning you disconnect the KMS from your applications, and you communicate with our solution. That one of the shells can be on AWS, the other one can be on-prem, or you can split it between.
What's the minimum configuration? What do I have?
2 pairs.
2 pairs.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain a little bit?
So the reason there are 2 pairs is because we need to have a backup. So
absolutely.
Because if one of them is not available, which is less probability than on a public cloud, but let's assume for some reason it's unavailable, there is a failover that is available immediately. With another pair of the same, which usually stores another pair of the key. So you have one key, 500 and 500, and then another key, 600 and 400 for backup. And for revoke. That's the minimum setup. So you need to have usually two clusters if you want to put it in the cloud, 2 clusters on each. Or 2 servers or virtual servers on-prem.
do I have to have two non-colluding environments?
No, you can do same again. You can do same cloud, different clouds, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, on-prem.
Okay.
We support all of it.
If you're using the same cloud, then
If you're using, I agree that if you're using the same cloud, you are a little bit lowering the security barrier. But if you do it smartly, like again because we have best practice of segregation. Of course, if you put everything on one machine and put it on the on the secretary office up front, then of course we have a lower security. You cannot expect that not to be broken. But if you follow the best practices and have separate operation system, one Unix, one Microsoft, separate administrator, you can demand that. Okay, separate username and password, and within our solution you can define that. You can limit that only one person will have access to the data. Then you're good, because the chance that admin will convince another admin simultaneously to hack the machine, that's it.
But with admin you mean
The system administrator, someone
the cloud admin.
the cloud admin.
But if then, for instance, the US.
Yeah, but still. So if a US subpoena coming and you are on the cloud, so one does not know about the other. So it cannot. So it gets So it's not their KMS. They are not aware of that solution. Even if they are aware, only one of them is there. Okay, so one of them, the key, the one share of the key is useless. Again, for two reasons. One, after a few minutes it's being refreshed, so it's useless by definition. But also, it's a different setup. With one you cannot retrieve any information. It's just part of a key, which you need to, again, compromise both parts and combine the key together, which is not a very easy task to do.
And how efficient
Last
is your
question.
solution? Do you have any
I'm sorry?
How efficient is your solution in terms of performance?
So for our leading customers, they already passed the 5,000 TPS. The solution, because it's software only, we are actually unlimited by the performance. You can put more and more instances according to, we are supplying everything that the customers want at the moment. We didn't find any limitation of doing that within the MPC for what we are providing.
Let's thank Javier.